Good evening, folks. Good evening, folks. If we could find our seats and we can begin. My name is Thomas Pence. I'm a public information officer here with Great Basin Team 3, and we have a nice group of speakers here to present some information about this fire to you guys tonight. Please hold your questions till the end. We will have an open period for you guys to answer all those questions. We do have a pretty big crowd here tonight, so if you don't have any questions that you feel comfortable asking in the group, we will be around at the end of the meeting to answer those. We're going to try and get you guys out of here in a solid hour and let you get back to your nights. With that, I'm going to introduce Chris. He is our incident meteorologist to give you an update on the weather. Chris?
Thank you, Thomas. My name is Chris Foltz. I'm the incident meteorologist that's assigned to the fire, working with Team 3 right now. Just real quick, for those of you that may not be familiar as to what an incident meteorologist is, so I'm employed with the National Weather Service. My full-time job is our regional fire weather program for the central part of the United States. But when we're on assignment like this, we're really here for the protection of the crews that are out there doing the really hard work. So our job is to make sure that they have awareness if there's going to be potentially dangerous or impactful weather, so they can adjust their operations accordingly. We also work with them on planning. So as the team is here, they're not just focused on what's going on right now. They're always looking ahead as to what's coming up in the next 3, 5, 7 days, and even beyond. What does the weather look like 2 weeks from now? What can we do? So this impacts and influences their operations and what they try to plan to do on a fire and how they attack that fire. So real quick, what I wanted to do, obviously we've been pretty fortunate to have a little bit of moisture here the last few days. Unfortunately, that trend is coming to an end, and I'll get a little bit more into that. But this is just an estimated precipitation graphic, and I'll step off to the side here so the folks on the right side here can see it, or my right side anyway. This is the fire perimeter. So this black outline is the fire perimeter. So if you look up here, Monroe is there, so Richfield is off the map up to the right, up to the top, I should say. Cusharam's off there, and then Greenwich is down here on the bottom right corner, just to kind of familiarize yourself since it's kind of covered up by that precipitation. So again, this is looking from a period from the 16th of July to the 18th of July. So all the precipitation that fell during those 3 days is added up and put into a graphic. And we've got the key of colors here on the right-hand side, which some of the colors may be a little bit hard to see, but the lightest shade of blues, just around Cusharam, up towards Monroe, that light shade of blue, that's between 1/100 of an inch and 1/10 of an inch of rain. Most of the fire received at least 1/10 of an inch, so between 1/10 and 1/4 of an inch. But if you look across, basically from the Monroe Canyon area to the east, over towards the Malgobey area and then south, that area over the last 3 days has generally received somewhere between 1/4 and 1/2 inch. That's great. That's not enough. We obviously would like to have had a lot more. We deal with what Mother Nature has given us, and so we're thankful for what we've got, but we always want more to a certain extent. We don't want so much that it would cause any flooding, but the more moisture we can get, the better. But as we go forward, if we can go on to the next slide. So this is a weather matrix whenever it pulls up here, showing this is something I produce every day for the team, and it's got a lot of colors on it. Unfortunately, right now, there's a lot of red. So basically, if we look at the top, it's showing that the temperatures are going to be pretty warm. So this is at an elevation of about 7,500 feet. So right towards the base of the fire, maybe into part of the fire area, which obviously goes much higher up towards 10,000 feet or so. So temperatures in the low 80s, that's considered to be a concern for critical burning conditions. We've also got very low humidities coming back. So we're looking at daytime humidities dropping down into the teens. So right now, actually, the observation point, the RAWS station that's up on Signal Peak, the last observation from just about an hour ago was 15%. So this moisture, this humidity that we've had in the air is already starting to move out. That trend is going to continue all the way throughout the week. By the time we get to next weekend, we're going to be dealing with even drier air, it looks like, unfortunately. So relative humidity values during the daytime falling down into the single digits. That's obviously very dry, but the other concerning factor is we won't see much recovery overnight in those humidity values either. So by the time we get towards the end of the week, the overnight, so the maximum humidity overnight will probably be somewhere in the 20s to upper teens, which is pretty dry. We're also going to be dealing with a couple of days of wind concerns. So coming up Monday, Tuesday, it does look like we will have some gustier winds. So when you combine the warmer temperatures with the lower humidity and those gustier winds, that tends to allow the fire to become a little bit more active. And then once again, as we get towards later in the week. So the bottom two lines here focus on the chance of lightning. Obviously, lightning is a concern. We don't want any additional fire starts. So the good news out of this drier period is we don't have any times right now where we see a really great potential for additional lightning. So as far as any new starts would go, that's not something we're really concerned about. The chance of wetting rain. So a wetting rain is 1/10 of an inch within 24 hours. So if we get 1/10 of an inch of rain within 24 hours, that's considered a wetting rain. As I just showed you on the graphic, we've had several areas that have received that a couple of days in a row in some cases, but the fire's already starting to get more active once again because the fuels with the big fuels are just really dry. This amount of moisture isn't going to help those big logs, big timber, the bigger fuels that are up there. So bottom line, the takeaway from this is we've been pretty fortunate to have some more moderate conditions the last few days. We've seen some precipitation falling on the fire, but now we're trending back towards that warmer, drier, and even in some cases, some days, some windier conditions. So I wish I had better news on the precipitation side. We'd love to just continue to see it rain. Unfortunately, the monsoon just really isn't setting up very well for this area so far for this time of year. So with that, I'll pass it on to Matt and to Jason, who will talk about operations, and I'll be around for any questions at the end.
Thanks. Hello, my name is Matt Call. I'm one of the operations chiefs. I'm going to prattle on it for a minute while Madison brings my iPad. This is Jason. He's one of the other operations chiefs. We're going to try to do some cool stuff with the iPad. And if it doesn't work, then we'll just wing it. So we have some good news and we have some bad news. So the good news is we have a lot of moisture, right? The bad news is there's still a fire up there. So I flew it today and I flew around and a lot of the edge looks really, really good. But the best analogy to give you right now is instead of having one big fire, we have 50 small fires that we know about and 50 small fires we don't know about. And what I mean by that is we have a lot of little small fires that might be an acre or less, and they're smoking and we know where they're at. We can go attack them if it's practical. And then we have ones that we can't see and they might start smoking up later. So what's going to help us now is we have piles of resources. We have engines and we have bulldozers and we have hotshot crews and hand crews. We have logging equipment coming. We have water tenders and we have all kinds of stuff here where we can start attacking that. The problem is we can't attack it everywhere all at once. We have to prioritize where we're going to attack it. And we can't get to all of those places all at once. And some of the places we can't even get to because it's not practical or it's not safe. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to show you kind of a Google Earth image of the outside. And we'll kind of let Jason sort of talk about what the outside of it looks like and where we have some heat. So if I can make this work. Oh, where'd you go, Madison? Oh, it's not working how I wanted it to. Here she comes. Will you put it on the Google Earth? So about how many firefighters do we have here today? Do you know off the top of your head?
There you go. Let's switch. So we've had several crews come in. You get about 20 folks per crew, several engines. We're well over 200 at this point, supporting them out of various different spike camps, main camps. So we've got folks spread out all around this thing, both sides, Richfield, Sevier Valley side, the Cashurum Valley, Grass Valley side, and that's going to continue to increase.
Okay, it's not working. We'll just wing it. All right. So we know where we're at up here, right? Big map of the fires you've seen. And if you've seen the briefing maps, you've probably seen us kind of talk around in circles. Well, what we wanted and what you wanted on guessing is what are the firefighters actually doing to help you and your house and your property, right? So that's what Jason's going to talk about. So let's talk about manning here. What do we have in manning? Who's there? What are they doing? What does it look like on the ground?
So in Manning Meadows, this is where our Division Zulu, on the fire ground, fire area, we break it out into branches and then divisions under those branches for an organizational structure. So Division Zulu has kind of this area in between the branch break and over here into the Box Creek reservoir, Upper Box Creek. So of course they're not out there that far away from the fire. They're up in the fire area in the Manning Meadows area, and they've had a lot of good success in there. The weather's definitely helped them to better mop up those fuels and secure around the structures. So that was priority one. Let's get in around the structures, clean up all that heat, make sure that there's no immediate threats where something could creep out, reemerge, get into those structures. Lots of success there, looking really good. To the point that a lot of that's been completed, and now these resources are going to start picking up the fire's edge. And this fire out in here has really come out to a lot of meadows, a lot of aspen stands. The difficult part is when it hit that timber, and it just threw embers all over out through there. And you heard the IMET talk about the heavier logs. They're so dry that they're just the best receptors for embers. And they'll get in there and smolder, get some sun on them, then they pop up. So we see these things emerging all the time. We call them spot fires. As Matt said, we know about a lot of them. We don't know about some of them. We're trying to use infrared. They had a drone flying up there with the infrared to help us better locate those smokes that we can't see that are just kind of staying down in the tree canopies, just not rising where we can see them. So really seek and destroy anywhere they can find heat in there. They're going after it. It's not like a lot of fires where we have a solid fire edge just because you have all those spots out there. So chasing those around, getting them secured and mopped up, and working all the way from Manning Reservoir back to the north towards Monroe Meadows. We'll talk about Manning Meadows to the west here in a minute. Okay.
That represent a lot of those areas were done progressively in doing. And so there's places where that's done a really good job in stopping the fire. And that's a good one for what it does that kind of makes the edge a little bit messy. So I was wondering if you could kind of talk about those fuel treatments and how they have benefited us in that area.
Yeah, absolutely. The fuel treatments in a lot of these divisions that we'll talk about were really key in slowing the fire, in some cases stopping the fire, and most importantly, giving firefighters the opportunity to have a safe area to work. The fact that it took that fire from up in the crowns of the timber and put it on the ground where they could actually get in there and defend structures, save structures. It's kind of the same story as Manning Meadow Reservoir area. Again, lots of spot fires out in there where those embers were kind of flung out into the flat, but you guys know Monroe Meadows, a lot of meadows, green, really lush in there. So, it's a good holding feature coupled with those fuels treatments. You see, nope, I can't. You got a laser, it's that island. That's a spot fire. I mean, that's a good depiction of a spot fire out in the middle there. So again, it's kind of that messy burn in there where we have to go around and pick some of those edges up. We do have resources in there today looking at doing a very small burnout operation that would benefit them rather than finding every one of 100 spot fires. They can just connect the dots from some timber to that spot fire out to a green meadow and know that we have a secure edge where we've taken the fuel away, given it where it doesn't have the ability to come out of there. And it just really locks all that in so that it can't come further out to the east and potentially impact other structures that haven't had fire around them. So really just trying to lock the door right there and keep that fire pinned back on the other side of those meadows. Absolutely. So the fuels in that area, really dense, mixed conifer, spruce fir, lots of deadfall. Some of the hot shots that were poking around in that area talked about deadfall knee high, and the effort to take chainsaws, hand tools in there, they would be in there for days and days and days on end. Where we have a better feature, a little combination of dozer line, some meadow systems where they can back off to and implement something in a day, maybe 2 days, that might take them a week to do otherwise if they had to go in there and try to remove all that fuel by hand. A lot of times when you cut a line into fuel like that, you've just got to stack it somewhere. You can't really haul it out that far. And so that becomes a problem within itself if you were to get an ember in all that fuel that you've now banked up. So coming out to a good safe area, a good hard feature that is less likely to burn and save us some time.
Not a fire, but I saw some that was active and there wasn't smoke up in there.
Right. So I'm going to tell you, this is our most concerning area right now. We have explored a couple of different options here. Again, this is another place that the hot shots went in and described that really dense fuel, really tight canopy, lots of trees, lots of heavy deadened down that's accumulated there over the years. And you'll notice as you start moving a little further north there, just above the hand, those topography lines start getting really tight. That is some steep country all the way down through Monroe Canyon, some of it near vertical. So we're fighting topography, we're fighting the fuels. Safety is what we care about most, and that's an area where not only, again, that time, what would it take to dig all those fuels out there to build a line, but now we're talking safety, falling trees, steep terrain, and then just getting trapped in there if that thing wanted to stand up.
Can't we just put it out with helicopters and stuff?
And that's what I wish we could, if we could just put aircraft in there. You heard the IMET here talk about the rain. This area has received some rain. We can walk in there a couple hours after the rain and that tree canopy is so tight, it's still crunchy in there. So we have actually been working some aircraft in there, some helicopters, trying to at least keep that at bay while we do some preparations to fight that fire more indirectly. They're doing a decent job of holding it, but I will tell you, watching two of our big heavy helicopters up there yesterday, you couldn't even see a decrease in the smoke as they kept dropping bucket and bucket and bucket after on this hot spot. So
They're about 1,000 gallons a drop.
1,000 or more, yeah. So if that gives you kind of an idea of just how hard it is to penetrate that tree canopy, just how dry these fuels are, how that fire will just creep around in that stuff, and the difficulty to get firefighters into that area and attack that safely, it's a challenge. This is some of the most challenging country in my career as an operations chief. We've explored multiple options, and it seems like Mother Nature just kind of tells us at every hand, this isn't the spot, this isn't the way, find plan B.
So if I have a house up here in Magleby, should I be worried?
So we're very concerned with Magleby. If this fire were to get across that drainage right there, that Oscar's Vision area, right now it's burning downslope. Fire burns slow downslope. If it throws a spot fire across that drainage, if it backs down to the bottom, we can't hold it. It gets down in the bottom. Now it's got an opportunity to run uphill. It's going to run faster uphill. So our firefighters are focused very heavily right now in Magleby Meadows, doing structure protection. We have some fuel treatments in there that, those fuel treatments are great for stopping fire. Unfortunately, these weren't just quite completed, and that slash in there makes our job that much more difficult. The timing is just very unfortunate there. So we're in there moving those slash piles. We're creating space. We're limbing up, sprucing up around all the cabins in there. So we have a better chance of success to defend those structures. We're plumbing in sprinkler kits. We've got quite the water delivery system up there. We call them pumpkins, big orange water tanks that they're scattered everywhere up through there. Water tenders running in there and out all day long, filling those up. And the hotshot crews and other crews in there, hose and sprinklers everywhere, protecting those cabins, just to, give us a better chance of success to protect those. And also, it's going to help us create a safe area to work from as well if we were needing to put some fire on the ground to take a defensive action to take that fuel out between the structures and the main fire.
So that's happening in the communities outside and all along here, wherever there's structures, we've got some of that structure protection happening wherever we feel like it's a threat. We've got mapping. They're spending a lot of time mapping so we can access and egress these areas, and as firefighters move in and out, they know where we're going and what the structures look like, digital mapping things. that allow them to know what goes home. As we move around, what are we doing on this far north?
So again, look at those topography lines down in that canyon. Probably the most inaccessible spot on the fire edge down there in Monroe Canyon. As you move kind of to the west of Oscar's Vision, can you point that out? No, over here to your right, way over to your right up the drainage. There you go. That's Oscar's Vision Peak. As you work down the canyon, that gets pretty vertical in there. The fortunate thing we have going for us further down the canyon, right now that fire is backing down in timber stringers. And we have the timber on that north-facing slope. On the other side of the canyon, we really don't have a lot of fuels. It's a lot of rock. It's a lot of just scabby grass and brush where we don't really see the fire having the ability to find a path to move north. So really where the hand's at there in Oscar's Vision, back to the east towards that branch break, that kind of feature up right there, that's the area where we feel like if the fire is going to move out of there, that's where it's going to be. That's why we're prepping the Magleby structures. And then the unfortunate thing is we've got a heavy timber pocket that goes up the west side of Magleby to the north. And, you know, if it were to get ahead of steam, it could get over into the Big Lake area to the north on the top of the map. We have another division in there doing the same thing that's being done in Magleby, sprinkler kits, prepping around structures, and trying to come up with some other options to fight the fire closer. We're looking at the road system, possibly doing some preparations along the road system, kind of from Glenwood Mountain, maybe a combination of dozer line to get it back down to that main road system, kind of where, nope, going north, sorry. North and to your, not that close to the structures, come back.
Yeah.
The white road to your,
Maybe you should run the laser.
maybe I should run the laser.
Yeah, I can't be trusted with lasers.
All right, that will work. So this area has been previously burned. It's a great feature that's going to hold the fire. If we can attach into dozer line and get that down to the road, we can come back along the road and really lock this back into the big meadows over here in Magleby. If the fire were to cross, if it were to get into this area, give us a really good chance to keep it out of the Big Lake area, keep it out of Bear Valley, out of Burrville, all these things that we really need to protect over here to the east. Ideally, we hope we can hold it within Magleby Basin on the ridge lines here if it were to try to come out on us, but we want to plan for contingencies. You hear that weather forecast, you know, it has us pretty concerned. Ideally, we want to cut this thing off as close as we can. Just a really hard piece of ground that's not going to get us the opportunity to get in here direct. We have to back off and look at what we need to protect.
I like you said, contingency. One of the principles we work on is we have what's called the PACE model. We have a primary plan, an alternate plan, a contingency plan, and an emergency plan. So we have 4 layers of plans that we're working on, and the primary plan is to work up as close to the fire as we can. And where we can, we are. Where we can't, we got to move back a little bit. Lastly, let's talk about what Trevor, I think Trevor works on this for us, what Trevor's doing over here on kind of what I've been calling the front.
Absolutely.
Part we can see from town here, and that Monroe's looking right at.
So from Monroe, a lot of the smoke that you've been seeing is actually kind of in this area right here. And again, this is where it gets really sparse. It's going to continue to, you know, just back down these little fingers of timber that we can't get into. Again, the other side's really barren. We're not too concerned right in here, which is great because Trevor and his division have been able to come up the main Monroe Canyon Road and grab this fire's edge. And this is a place we've been able to start going direct on the edge, coming into Hunts Lake, really just working all of that edge. We are going to get over here just past Hunts Lake. And again, topo line's getting really tight, really steep. All this stuff towards Marysville Peak is just really steep and nasty and no road access. So he'll work this edge as long as he can. Then we're going to look at utilizing this road system and some dozer line to get it tied down to the valley bottom, which is what we call a check line. That will ensure that if this fire tries to get alignment and kind of hook back around, we've got a really good point to work off of. Light fuels, more open. This is somewhere that we've got a high level of success of holding. Coupled with that, he's going to put in another contingency line if needed that would come off the bottom of Monroe Canyon and just stay at the foot of the hill out through Poverty. And again, tie back into this check line. It can continue to extend actually down into Dry Creek as well if needed, just to keep it out of these flats, keep it from coming back towards Monroe. So good operation there. And then unfortunately, that last piece between as far as he can go in Hunts Lake and Manning Meadow, again, really no options in here. The good thing is we're not seeing the stuff we care about most, the structures. This will likely back off into these canyons. I wouldn't expect any major runs here, as it's going to be backing into our predominant wind out of the south, southwest. We are going to go look in the morning and do some flights and look at a couple of other ridge lines. There's some big burn scars out in here, and I think we've got some other options that we could actually tie over here in Manning Reservoir and kind of work back to really shorten that up. We don't want to see it get way out here. We want to fight it as close as we can again.
All right, last question, Jason. It's gonna be hard. You ready? All the stuff you're talking about is really big perimeter, and when I look up that, I really don't see a lot of fire and I don't see a lot of smoke. So why are you talking such big lines so far out from the perimeter when the fire sort of looks like it's mostly out?
Right. So again, with that weather, anytime you start seeing relative humidities under 20% and temperatures 80 plus, we know that it's going to come back to life. It's just a sleeping giant right now. Some of the crews talked about walking back through that knee-high slash, and they can see smoke underneath them. They can't really tell where it's at. So we know we've got a lot of heat back in there that's just not punching up through the canopy. We just can't see that it's still active in there. Again, ideally, if we could put a dozer or people and go around every bit of this right on the edge, we sure would. Again, the access, the steepness, the heavy fuels, this is a recipe for getting folks hurt. We've seen this happen before on other fires, and we need to keep our folks safe. We need to fight the fire where we've got a high probability of success. I would really hate to spend the days and weeks we're talking of digging into this timber to see that blow out anyway. And, we just don't have the time when we have a good option somewhere else to fight it safely and be prepared to receive and, protect the values we care about and, provide for that element of safety.
That's pretty good. That was a hard question. What about you guys? You guys have hard questions for us, operationally wise? Not even one. All right. I'm sure there's some evacuation questions, some access questions. We're part of that decision-making process, but that's going to be addressed by somebody else. So we'll, no other people have any questions. Nobody else wants us to say anything. We'll get off the stage. We got one. So the question is, out of curiosity, where are we pulling water from? That's a good question. Everywhere, lots of places.
Yeah, several spots, several locations. So we're trying to, utilize the closest resource. So if we're talking over here in this Division Whiskey, Division Zulu country, we're utilizing Manning Meadow Reservoir and Box Creek Reservoir. Not so much, it's, Box Creek's a little farther, but Manning Meadow for sure. Anything over here on this north end, and actually even over on the west side, just because you guys know how dry Poverty is, there's not really anything out there. We're grabbing water out of Magleby and using it for that.
Kind of to that point, tomorrow we're pushing out a message to all of our people. We have a kind of a color-coded map, and we know there's water issues with whirling disease and some other things. And so we're making sure that when we're pulling out of water, we're making sure that it's staying in that watershed, and that if we're moving a water moving apparatus, it's getting cleaned when it's moving across those boundaries to work in another watershed.
And one more source we have is also Paiute Reservoir. We have a couple of what we call fire bosses there. smaller aircraft that can scoop. They need a larger body of water though to kind of act as that runway, to get down and scoop that water. So we've used that some as well.
Go ahead. Yep. I'm gonna repeat your question so the people online can hear that. So correct me if I'm not wrong. What you're asking is, how far east are we worried about? Is there a possibility of the fire moving quite a bit further east? Can the fire move that far east, and do we think it's going to? Is that okay?
That's a great question. We obviously share some of the same concerns. Where'd my pointer go? Well, that's why you don't give me technology. Okay. So yeah, talking about that easternmost point, the first impact we'd see there's Bagley. We've got folks in there doing some preparations around those structures as well. The nice thing with, that area in there in Bagley, we've got a lot of open meadow. Not too concerned about those structures. They're in a pretty good spot out there in Bagley, but we'll continue to prep. And I did, when I talked Burrville, Bear Valley, I did fail to mention Cashurum. That is a part of our structure assessment plan, our group that we have kind of independently floating and making sure that we've got accountability for all structures. What's the threat to the community, the particular structure? The good thing we have going for us with Cashurum itself is, again, kind of where that Division W label is, we've got a lot of treatments out in there as well. So we've, in a sense, a catcher's mitt that's already prepared for us from this forest, the Fish Lakes burning they've been doing for about 10 years now. So we're feeling pretty good to the west. Again, like you said, there's always a chance.
You said west, you mean east?
Sorry, east. Yeah,
The other way.
backwards. The other thing we've got going for us, it's downhill, downslope. That again tends to slow fire spread, gives us a lot of time, and the best thing for us is it transitions down the hill. We get into lighter fuels like grass and sagebrush. That's where our aircraft do exceptionally well. That's where retardant is super effective. Those little scoopers I talked about, the Fire Boss, is super effective. So we feel pretty good about Cashurum and Burrville, definitely on our radar. With these wind events that we typically have around here, where we get a pretty good southwest wind, that would push it, more up towards that Burrville, Bear Valley country if that were to happen. We don't want to rule out, of course, any wind directions possible. So we're going to plan, as it would head that direction with any value we've got out there for sure.
I think there's another question over here.
Hey, folks, really quickly, we do have an open period of questions at the end. We have a number of speakers that still need to get up and present. Do you mind holding your questions until that point? That would be wonderful.
Okay.
With that, I can introduce Commissioner Jensen and have him.
We're done.
A quick speech.
I was able yesterday to, if you will, be escorted up on the fire, go around from about noon till 7 p.m. last night. Went in from Cashurum up to Maggleby's, over through the Monroe Meadows, up to the west side of Monroe Meadows. It looks down towards Sawmill Flat, and then over to Manning, and then back down the Greenwich Road. And they just asked me to kind of just share some of my thoughts and opinions. And as a lay person, not a firefighter, I was uncomfortable. And I was so grateful I was with some firefighters with me to guide me through and show me this stuff. One of the things they wanted me to see was those structures that had been destroyed. And just talk a little bit about that. And just as information, those people who've lost a cabin have been notified. And if you have not been notified, your cabin or your structure is standing. And we were able to witness and watch as they just talked about so many preparations to help these structures. be protected. And these wonderful firefighters, I can't say enough, but just thank you. It's just amazing what they have done as they talked about these pumpkins and sprinklers and all the stuff through that whole thing. It was just amazing to see the resources that have been used to protect all of these. And as we were driving around, it was amazing to just sit there and watch just a little breeze, and all of a sudden trees were just dropping. You know, as these trees have just been recently burned, you know, maybe 4 days, 5 days, you know, 2 days, the base of those things are just the embers are just sitting on those and going, and you look at some of those trees and you're like, man, only a third of that bottom is there, and a little breeze and they were coming down, and we had to stop several times as there were road crews walking along and driving along and, you know, cleaning these out. And just as from my spot as a person, my spot as a commissioner, it is not safe up there. As we look and see this, it doesn't look like there's much going on there, but there's a lot of things up there that the regular guy is not prepared for. And even though I've lived up there, I know this country, I know it, I am not prepared to be in that. And so all the closures and different things that we have, please abide by them, because it does nothing but help these firefighters do their job and take care of what they're trying to do to save not only the forest but the structures. But it was impressive. It was incredible to see the different burn markings, some of it mosaic and some of it not. It took everything. But anyway, over the course of the time, we will get a chance to go up there. But please abide by whatever closures and things that we have, because it is scary up there to be up there. Thanks.
So I'm Thomas Peterson, the area manager for Forestry, Fire, and State Lands. And they told me I had an hour, but you guys got a lot of questions, so I'll make it quick. The first thing I would like to do is thank you guys for your cooperation and support. The more we stay out of the firefighters' way, the more they can get done up there, the quicker we can get you guys back in. The next thing I would like to let you guys know, and hopefully you guys understand, this fire's not out. There's still a lot of heat up there. There's still a lot of moving parts. The weather coming, we're going to see fire activity start to move pretty quick. The other thing is I want you guys to know that we understand how much that property means to you guys. I know you guys have 24th of July plans and all that kind of stuff, and I know how much that property means to the community. So I hope you guys can still enjoy your holiday weekend and everything, but at the same time, try and give the firefighters and public safety the space that they need to operate up there. And then, just so that you guys know, with those thunderstorms that came through the last couple of days that brought moisture, we're pretty lucky that we had the resources that we did here. We had 22 initial attacks in the 6-county area. One of them went 223 acres. So we had a lot of resources while that lightning came through. It helped us get on top of that stuff. And then our commitment to you guys is we are really truly trying to get you guys in there and get it safe as quick as we can. But it's going to be a long haul for a bit. So I'm around. I'll stick around to answer questions, but I'll hurry because I know you guys got a lot of questions. Jason?
Thanks, Thomas. Yeah, so Jason Kling, your district ranger with the Fish Lake National Forest. Many of you know me. I live in Monroe. I've been here for a little while, not as long as everybody, but been here a while and really enjoy the Monroe. I'm pretty familiar with the Monroe. I spent a lot of time recreating on the Monroe, and when that, from right there at the very beginning, when we got that initial smoke report, and I looked up on the hillside, I knew to myself, that's not in a good spot. It's growing quickly. I'm familiar with the terrain, and we knew pretty darn quick we were going to have to call in the professionals, recognizing where we were going with our weather forecasting, the terrain, the steepness, the access. We knew right off the get-go, we were going to be in for the long haul. This was not going to be a fire that we would be able to put out quickly or very easy. And so we ordered in the professionals. We've got doctors, we've got engineers, we got law enforcement. We have a variety of different professionals in their fields. And when it comes to firefighting, the folks that came in with the incident management team, they're the professionals in this field. And so the team totally has my support. I've been around this for a while. I understand the lingo. I understand what they're sharing. If some of these things are a little confusing, by all means, ask questions and we'll try to explain as best as we can. But I feel a whole lot more comfortable knowing that we've got the complex team here with us. I've worked with them for many, many years. They're putting together a good plan. I knew that this was going to be a challenge for them. And so, and they're still working on it. They've got some places that it's coming into focus on what they need to do. And then they've got other areas that they're still out there scouting and trying to put together that best plan. So